the sirens are going off, and that's a really bad sign. Or it's 10 a.m. But we don't have to worry about that because today I'm actually out here with Project Overlander, and we are going to restore these headlights to better than new. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda out here with Jeep Commander, Project Overlander, and I have done some upgrades to the front here. These blacked out headlights, the centerpieces here are still chrome or silver reflective, but the surrounds are black. That's actually an aftermarket thing that the previous owner put in here, which I actually like because the car is black and I put in this black grille. But one of the things that you can see here is that this lens is a little oxidized. That's something that happens on cars with plastic lenses. Even with glass lenses, they can happen. Now, you might be looking at these and being like, hey, Pete, I can see the reflection. They don't look that bad. Actually, when I first looked at this car, they were really oxidized. They actually looked like they were frosted and yellowed. And he actually used one of those restoration wipes. They kind of look like big wet wipes. But I don't know if they have like a wipe on Clearcoat or something, or acetone or something like that. But they actually smoothed them out quite a bit. But you can just see here, there is oxidation still on it. There's yellowing around here. One of the things that this car does not have is awesome headlights. And so what I want to do is just make these as crystal clear as possible. Now, I have actually thought of a couple different solutions here. I thought about wet sanding these and then using that acetone vapor product to try to restore the headlights. But that solution actually has two problems to me. One, you're removing material and then you're basically melting it flat and shiny again, which is fine. But I don't like the idea of removing that material, and I don't know if they coat them with some UV protectant or something like that. So if you've sanded down that top layer, you're not putting anything back, right? You're not putting back any material, and you're certainly not putting back any more UV protection. So what I want to do here is I want to sand this down. This always kind of freaks me out, but I will wet sand these down. I think I'll start with something like a 200 or 300 grit to 400 grit, 600 grit. I really would love to get down to 800 or 1000 grit on the final pass. And then we will clear coat them with the Clear 2K. It's got the hardener in there. And so hopefully that will look very nice and shiny. There is a step beyond that I'm not going to do, but I'll talk about that when we get there. So the first thing I need to do is get this in the garage and get some warm water and start wet sanding it down. All right, so I've got the Commander backed into the garage. First thing I'm going to do is get some painter's tape and mask off everything around this headlight here so that I don't sand into the paint and ruin the paint any more than it is already ruined. But it's actually a little easier with the sun directly on the headlights now to see kind of how oxidized they are. And you can actually see, might be a little hard, some brush marks where he used the wipe to kind of go back and forth on that lens. So both of these need to be cleaned up a little bit for road safety, but also looks. Bright eyes, baby. Bright eyes. Okay, let's mask it up and start sanding. All right, this is all masked up, and I am also wearing my mask so that I don't get anyone else sick. You know, flatten the curve. Okay, I'm not. I'm wearing a pair of tidy whities on my head. Listen, we are going to start wet sanding this. I'll probably just time lapse that for you. Gonna start with a low grit here, 300-400. I'm hoping that is going to be enough to get that top layer off. I have a variety of sandpapers here that go down to 3,000. Probably going to stop once I get to 800 or 1,000. And I also have this sanding block right here. This is going to make it a lot easier on my hands. If you are just using paper like this, you're kind of pushing your fingers in there. Your hand is going to get really tired, especially when you have a very flat-ish headlight lens like this. It's going to make this a lot easier. So if you want to pick up this sanding block, I'll put a link to this in the description too. But this is almost going to be a hack for this job. So got my bucket of warm water here and let's get to it. Like I said, actually sanding this always freaks me out a little bit. I'm starting out with 400 grit here, and while I won't show you everything, really the key is as you're sanding and wet sanding, you're going to get this runoff, and you can see that that is pretty yellow, and so that means you're getting off that oxidation. Once that becomes a white milky drip, that means you're down to that plastic and you're not getting any more of that sunburnt yellow film there. So I'm going to keep doing that until it turns all white, and then we're going to step up to some lighter grits here, and hopefully then we will get to painting and clearing this up today. All right, after that 400 grit, certainly looks intimidating, but at least it's not yellow. It's hard to tell in this light because I'm inside, but it's finally now down to a powdery white. So I'm on to 600 grit and then 800 and then 1,000, and then we will paint. All right, I turned my flash on here so that you could see what I've got. Kind of drying. I've rinsed it a little bit, but I really have to clean it off. You can see some of that residue still on there, but this is the 400, 600, 800, 1,000 grit. So down to the 1,000, which is where I wanted to be. And you're really kind of using that 400 grit to get off the oxidations. You want to make sure that you're getting down to that clear white residue at that layer. And then the rest of the layers are really just to get it down to a very fine, almost flat headlight lens state. So it takes a little bit of elbow grease. A little electric sander probably would have worked nicely, assuming that you don't electrocute yourself wet sanding. But I got to clean this all off, and then I'm going to get this covered in plastic, and then we're going to start shooting this with Clearcoat, and then hopefully we will have very clear headlights. All right, so they're not almost dry here. Still a little wet area, but I've got my shop rag. I've got some soapy water here. I am going to wash these, make sure I get rid of any of the big particulate, and then let them dry. And then I'm going to go over it again. This is the stuff that I really got to get rid of, any of this kind of chalky buildup anywhere. Make sure all of that is gone. And then I'm going to go over it with rubbing alcohol to make sure that I don't have any grease or fingerprints or oils on it. And then we will start painting. And then I'm going to use first aid antiseptic isopropyl alcohol. And I'm actually just going to spray this on there and make sure that I get all the water and grease anywhere I've touched it off and the last of particulate. All right, it is taped and masked up, but out of an abundance of caution, I'm just going to hit it with a little alcohol again, wipe it down, just make sure that I didn't brush the lens there and get all my body oils all over everything because I have been doing this naked. All right, so what will we be covering those headlights with? It's Spray Max 2K Clearcoat Glamour. Hopefully that means glossy. And one of the things that's important about this is that you have to do this in a well-ventilated area, so we're going to open up the garage. I do have a respirator, so you absolutely want to have that too because this has isocyanates. I think that'll make your life miserable. We have this red plastic piece here. So you take that out, you put that into the bottom, and then I will press down on it to puncture the hardener that's in here. And that's why this is two-part. And that's why this has been so much better than some of the clear coats I've got at the auto supply store where they tend to yellow over time. Maybe they're not quite as hard, but this stuff seems to last and it is perfectly clear. Hopefully, if I got the right stuff. So let's go ahead and puncture this, and then we have to shake it for a very long time. So I've got the red cap off right there. You just put it on the post right there on the bottom, and then just put it on the ground and push it down. All right, it is punctured, and now you just shake this. And I think you have to shake this for several minutes, and people complain about how long that is, and they get tired. For some reason, my arms can just go like 20, 30 minutes doing this and never get fatigued. In fact, feels extremely natural. So once I get this shaked up, we are going to go ahead and open the door and get this applied. And hopefully we will see if these headlights look better, because I tell you what, this is after all of the prep work, and that freaks me out because there is no light going through there. That is for sure. So hopefully we will find out in just a few minutes. Got my PPE on. We're going to just put a light dusting on first. That's going to be the base that hopefully will allow me to spray on more of this stuff later. We'll probably do, 2, 3 coats, hopefully until it's clear. So let's get this one on first. All right, a little bit hazy. All right, that's what it looks like so far. A little bit better than it was. Now I'm just going to let that dry for about 10 minutes, and then we will put on another coat. Second coat. Looking even better. All right, it's been another 10 minutes, so we're going to do, I guess this is technically the third coat, but it's really only the second heavier coat. And this is where I'm feeling a lot better. You can still see kind of that orange peel there, which we will always have, but hopefully that'll just get smoother and smoother. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more. All right, gonna wait another 10 minutes here and then come back on out. All right, 10 minutes have elapsed. This is what it looks like. It's actually looking pretty good so far, but I'm going to put one more coat of this on there. And then I'm actually just going to close the garage and let this cure inside because it's warmer inside than it is outside. So one more heavier coat on each of these lenses, and then we will let it dry, and that will be the end of this. And then once everything is cured, I'll peel off all the plastic, and then we will take a final look at the headlights. All right, so another 24 hours have passed, and the lights have been curing in my car, and took off all of the painter's tape and the masking, and dude, I love it. I think it looks great. Might be a little hard to tell from here, but man, if you remember those lights from beforehand, in fact, the only thing that makes this car look kind of gross right now is all that wet sanding debris, which needs to be cleaned off here. But man, this lens is so clear. I mean, you can see the reflection of my Buick in the lens. Hello. But now I can see actually in there, I've actually never noticed how detailed the headlamp was. They've got those little hex screws around the outside of the housing there too, just kind of mimicking the theme of the Jeep here. So that's pretty nice, but man, it's great. In fact, it was kind of funny. When I was painting this side, I noticed a run starting to appear right there and starting to run down there. So I kind of let off the spray. I don't know. It looks like maybe it had run down there. Oh, I kind of see it. Oh my gosh, it is so subtle. It stops right there, but it's kind of flush now. So you might not be able to see that. I mean, it's not raised. Oh my gosh, you probably aren't going to be able to see it. But I can just see where there's just a little bit of a raised like pimple in the clear coat right there where the run stopped. So it ran down there. So even with my poor painting performance, but man, that's now probably the best looking part of the car. Is there a little orange peel in it? Just a little. Can you see that? You know, I always would think a little cut and buff there would be the right thing to do. But especially on kind of a big flat paneled lens like this, I feel like it'd be even easier to see on some of the more contoured round headlights, but there's no temptation for me to even do it. The extra work, obviously, is something you don't want to just take on, but man, I think it looks great. Shiny and liquidy, and just opens up the front end, makes those eyes a little bit brighter, cleans up those headlights. I mean, they weren't the worst headlights I'd ever seen before, but there's just something so remarkably stark when you reinvigorate headlights like that. And so a car can actually have great paint and look good overall, but if you have those yellowish, foggy, frosted headlights on a car, it automatically looks old. It automatically looks like something that's been sitting outside under a tarp up on cinder blocks in your yard. But cleaning up those headlights, man, it's an easy thing to do. You can do it with one bottle of that 2-part Clearcoat at home. Get a respirator if you don't have one, and it makes all the difference. Pretty simple. So if you want to do a little wet sanding, maybe pick up that wet sanding block that I have, or the 2-part Clearcoat. I will put links to it all in the description below. Go at it. Rejuvenate your car. Give the car a little cataract removal. Peter Von Panda. Out.